This is Erica Cohn again with 40 Carats Family Center. Wanted to spend some time talking to you all today about how you can be looking after your mental health during this difficult time. Just some input on some precautionary and preventative ways that you can kind of be taking care of yourself during this time, just to kind of promote your general well-being. I will start by acknowledging that I think regardless of whether or not you've ever struggled with any prior mental health concerns, this is a time where I think just about all of us are going to struggle with some feelings of being unsettled, stressed, anxious, maybe even depressed or angry about the current state of affairs. This virus has upheaved our entire lives, our day-to-day schedule. We have lost access to our regular ways of living, and we don't have an exact timeline as to when we're going to be able to resume our lives. It's a lot to cope with, and it's going to create some challenges. So in an effort to cope with some of these difficult emotions, whatever they are, as a first step, I encourage you to work to accept your feelings for what they are, rather than push them or try to escape from them. The research tells us that avoiding our feelings or pushing them away usually causes them to come back stronger and last even longer. Instead, we find that it's more beneficial to work to acknowledge your feelings for what they are, the thoughts and the sensations that accompany them, and to try to exert some acceptance towards them without judging yourself for feeling the way you feel. By simply acknowledging what we're feeling and showing some self-compassion and some self-validation towards ourselves, our feelings do tend to come and go a little bit easier. Outside of acknowledging and allowing those feelings within ourselves, I think it's also incredibly important and useful to be working to express our feelings or share our feelings in some way. I think most commonly we think about sharing our feelings with loved ones or trusted individuals in our lives, which I think is incredibly helpful. When we work to talk out loud about what we're feeling and share our feelings with someone we trust, we're able to create a little bit of emotional space from our feelings, and we tend to feel less overwhelmed by them in turn. By talking it out, talking it through, we usually feel less alone in what we're feeling, which can give us the strength to know and feel that we're going to be able to get through it. I know that isolation is something a lot of people are really stressed about right now, but I do want to remind you that in today's day and age, there is a lot of ways that we can work to maintain our social lives. So whether that be the more common platforms like calling or texting or video chatting, it might also include things like those Netflix parties where you're able to kind of join together online and watch movies together. But also know that there are other forms of emotional expression as well, whether it be through art, writing, poetry. For those who maybe don't have those social supports in their lives, simply expressing your emotions in other alternative ways do have the ability to give us some of the same effects. So I think the idea here is to feel like you don't have to internalize your feelings and keep them to yourself. That sometimes showing it, releasing it, expressing it in some way can really go a long way to help us unload. Otherwise, in looking after your mental health, I try to teach all of my clients about the importance of working to stay busy and to stay occupied. When we spend too much time lounging or being unproductive, we're actually more likely to feel tired, bored, unmotivated, restless. And if you have too much quiet time where you're ruminating, you're more likely to feel anxiety and stress and depression. So it is incredibly important to try to stay busy in the best ways possible. You might consider scheduling, putting together a day-to-day routine, but we are creatures of habit. We thrive when things feel predictable. And because our usual, typical day-to-day routines have been taken from us, it is important to work to establish some new routines. Outside of the mandatory things that have to get done, I encourage you all to try to take some time to think about any personal goals or any family goals that maybe you've thought about before, but kind of struggled to make time for in the busy hustle of day-to-day life. You know, I think every single one of us have had instances where we've had ideas or we have felt motivated to better ourselves in some way, but perhaps we've put it off due to lack of time or lack of energy. So a part of me wonders, and maybe some odd parallel, if this is the universe's way of kind of carving out some time for us to address these goals. Um, for instance, you know, for those who maybe have wished they had more time with their family or more time with their romantic partner, this is a great time to try to address some of that. And I encourage you to take some time to think about how you're going to do it in a way that feels meaningful and really create some memories that you can look back on and associate with this time rather than just panic. So whether it be, you know, some campfires in the backyard or stargazing from the hood of your car, family game night or movie night, think about how powerful it would be for you and your loved ones to look back and remember those things when it comes to this experience. One of the last things that I want to mention, if we're talking about just precautionary and preventative ways to be taking care of yourself, is that of exercise. You know, I really just can't emphasize enough how useful and beneficial it is to your physical and mental well-being to stay physically active. Exercise literally activates your brain and bodies in ways that contribute to feeling more energized, more motivated, less stressed, just feeling better. And the good news tells us that exercise in all ways, shapes, and forms is helpful for mental health because it helps your brain create endorphins and natural opiates, all those feel-good chemicals in your brain, even if it's not especially rigorous. The research tells us that something as short as a 20-minute walk outside can boost mood for up to 2 hours. We know that both aerobic and anaerobic exercise, the type that gets your heart pounding or the type that doesn't, both serve to reduce stress and anxiety. For those who struggle to commit to exercise, consider setting yourself up for success by picking an exercise regimen that's kind of fun for you, like something you're actually going to enjoy doing. Don't overexert yourself too soon because that's going to make it hard to want to get back to it or stick with it. And consider making it a part of your routine. If you have the time set aside for it, you're more likely to stick with it. So as I wrap up this talk about some preventative ways to be looking after yourself, I do want to once again just spend a moment normalizing what a difficult time this is, to recognize that it's going to take an emotional toll on just about all of us, and to know that we're all going to feel, and that the best thing you can do during this time is to just take some easy steps, some preventative steps to help preserve your mental health, to take care of yourself, and to be able to feel just good enough to be able to get through this. Because you will. Doesn't mean it'll be easy, but with some of these things that we talked about today, hopefully it makes it a little bit easier. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.